In this video, we're going to work on the account screen, so account.html, and we're going to design it so that it can handle all the different states for friend related to the friend system, I guess. I remember back when we talked about when we built the account screen, I briefly talked about it. I said there was going to be 5 states. You know, is it your profile that you're looking at? If it's not your profile, are you looking at someone else? I guess that was the only 2 that we looked at. Just is it yours or is it someone else's? But now we have 3 other states that we're going to add. Basically, the hierarchy goes like this. Is it you? If it's not you, then it's someone else. Now the next question is, are you friends with the next person? If you are friends with the next person, that's one state. If the answer to that Boolean is false, then that opens it up to the other 3 states. So if you're not friends, did you send them a friend request? Did they send you a friend request? Was there no friend request sent at all? Those are the 5 kind of states, and I'll show you a diagram. Okay, so here I am at the profile, and this state would be called, we call this is self. The first question is it your profile or is it not? If the answer to this question is true, so making this Boolean true, this is what you would see. You're looking at your own profile. Now the second would be if is self is false. So if you had that Boolean that I just talked about, if is self equals false, that would mean you move on to the next set of logic. So that means basically you're looking at somebody else's profile. So after that opens up a number of other questions. The first one being, are you friends? So is friend. So if it is not you, then you're looking at someone else's profile. Now the question becomes, are you friends? Well, as you can see from this view back here, we have this little messaging button. We have this little kind of friends section up here. That means that yes, you are friends. If you have the ability to send them a message, then you are friends. So that would mean this is true. Now, if is friend is equal to false, that opens it up to 3 other states. So here we have, we could write is self equals false, is friend, so is friend equals false. So now what is this state? This is not your profile. You're not friends with this person. So what is the next state going to be? This state is going to be defined by no, it's a constant that will be no request sent. So that means they haven't sent you a friend request and you haven't sent them a friend request. That's what this kind of denotes up here, because you have the ability to send them a friend request. No friend request has been sent. That is the 3rd state. Now the next state here is, you have is self equal to false. You have is friend. I'm going to write this quicker now because I want to get through this. Equal to false. So those are the 2 things that we are confirmed. We're looking at someone else's profile. That's basically what that means. You are not friends. What is this state? Well, this one is there actually has been a friend request sent. So this one would be defined by a constant called them sent to you. So they sent you a friend request and you're looking at their profile. So then up here you have the option to either decline it or accept it. So that's going to be the 4th state. Now the 5th and final state is, of course, is self equal to false, is friend equal to false. And this one's different. So now you're looking at someone else's profile and you have the option to cancel it. So this would be defined as a constant called you sent to them. So you sent them a friend request and it's currently pending. So if you're looking at your profile while that friend request is pending, you have the option to cancel it. By the way, if you were wondering how I was able to draw on the monitor, I have this really cool monitor it's just a standard monitor, but you can actually draw on it. And it comes with this really cool pen. So you can see there that I'm drawing on this monitor and I can record the screen and do everything that I was doing. It's a standard regular monitor, but I can draw on it. And it's been really helpful for making diagrams and outlining things for people. Actually, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this thing helpful or is it distracting? Like, what do you think of it? And if you're interested in buying one of these, I have an Amazon link down below where you can find it. It's not that expensive. It's, I guess, a little bit more than a standard monitor, but you get a lot more with it. If you're a programmer and you're just trying to figure out, what you want a certain view to look like. It's great for sketching. You can bring up a blank page. You can sketch out kind of what you want it to look like. You can save it as an image. It makes it a lot more clean, I find too, because I used to use notebooks. So you draw out a bunch of stuff in a notebook and then you have stacks and stacks of paper that just creates clutter. This way you can save it digitally and save it in a folder in an organized way on your computer. So I find it really handy anyway. So down below, there's a link. Check it out if you are interested. You know, this thing actually sits on my desk really conveniently too, in a really convenient way. Here, let me show you. See, how cool is that? It sits right down below my monitor, and I can very conveniently, you know, still use my mouse. I got my pen here. I can draw, I can write things, and I can still record videos and do everything that I normally do. Very cool. Check it out. There's a link down below. So those are the 5 states, and I have it kind of written out on this little logic table here. So the first question is, are you looking at your own profile? Is self? If it's true, we're done and we can render it. We know what that looks like. So that's kind of like case number 1. If the answer to that question is false, then we move to the next kind of logic node in the tree. So the next question is it your friend? If it's not you, are you friends? True, if it's your friend, then that's state number 2. We know how to render that. They are your friends, so we know what that looks like. If the answer to that question is false, it opens up to 3 other states. There's the third one, which is no friend request has either been sent from you or from them. There's no pending friend request. The second one is they sent you a friend request. The third one is you sent them a friend request. Those are the 5 states that we have available in this screen. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the friend app, and I'm going to create a new file. So right click, create a new file, and call this friend status or friend request status, friend request underscore status .py. And we're going to define an enum. So from enum, import enum. Now create a new class called friend request status, and it's going to take an enum. It's going to extend an enum because that's what it is. Now the 3 statuses, or the 3 states that we talked about, if you're not friends and we don't know what the view should look like, the first one is no request sent, and I'm going to set that to -1. Then we have them sent to you, and that's going to be 0. And then we have you sent to them. Those were the 3 states that we looked at. So -1, 0, and 1. Now, there's no particular reason why I chose -1, 0, and 1. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of fitting. You could have done 1, 2, 3. You could have done 4, 5, 6. It really doesn't matter. They're just constants. It's just an enum. It really doesn't matter what the value of these things are. Now I'm going to create a utility function for figuring out if 2 users are friends or not. So right click on friend, go to new file, Control S to save it, and we're going to call this utils.py. Now, it's a pretty common thing to create like a utility file and put like kind of random functions that don't really have a home and put it into utils inside of the app. Like technically inside of account, if we go into views and you scroll down to the very bottom, technically like our crop image function, that could have probably gone into like a utility file. I just chose to put it in views.py, but just to kind of give you an idea of what utility functions typically are, that could have probably been one. So in here, we want to create that function for determining if 2 users are friends. So from friend.models, import friend request. Now I want to create a function. So define get friend request or false. So are they friends? True. If they're not friends, then false. So we want to get the sender and the receiver. I'm going to do try, do autocomplete, just a basic try except block. And I want to do return friend request dot objects dot get sender equals sender, and then comma receiver equals the receiver. So you're looking for that specific friend request, and of course is active must be true. This must be an active friend request. If that object does not exist, so I can do if friend request dot does not exist, then we know that we want to return false. So return false. Sorry, I think I said at the beginning that it would be if the friend request exists, return true, if not false. What we're doing is we're actually getting the friend request object, or false. So it's not true or false, it's either the friend request object or false. So pressing Control S on that. Now we need to go into our account view. So go into account views.py, and we need to edit the account view. So scroll down here, and you can see I've written some comments in here. I don't think those were there before, but this is basically our logic. So is self, if false, then is friend, if false, then these 3 states. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 4 or 5 different kind of states that this view could potentially be in. So the only things that we need to change are down here. So starting at where we define is self and is friend, this is where we need to write some logic. Also, I think you need to write in user equals request.user, so don't forget to do that. Oh no, actually up above these is where we'll start to write the friend list stuff. So I'm going to create a try except block, and the first thing I'm going to do here is get the friend list for the authenticated user. So I'm going to say friend list.objects.get and do user equals account. Sorry, not for the authenticated user. This is going to be for the profile that we're looking at. So whatever user's profile is currently in view, that is the friend list that we're retrieving right here. And I want to do the same thing with the friend list exception that I checked in the utility function. If friend list does not exist, then we want to create a friend list. So if their friend list doesn't exist, I actually briefly talked about this in the previous video. I said we were going to use a post save receiver to do that, which we definitely should, and I hope I don't forget to. But if this friend list doesn't exist, we need to create it. So go to the next line and do friends equals friend list.friends.all. So accessing that friends list from the model. So if you go into models, remember we have this friend list or friends field inside of here. So I need to go friend list.friends to get access to that, and then all to access a query set. If we don't write all, it's going to return an iterable. So we have to write all to actually get a list or get the query set itself. Now I'm going to add those friends to the context. So friends equals friends. So this is the friends of the person whose profile we are looking at. So if we go to our production environment, for example, if I'm looking at my own profile, then I see that my friends, the number of friends that I have is 62. And if I click on that, it takes me to a list containing all of their friends. So that's the friends that I'm talking about that we're retrieving right here. It's a friend list of all of the friends of the user whose profile we're looking at. Now let's go down to this next set of logic right here where we have is self is true, is friend is true, and user equals request.user. So this is all still correct. If the user is authenticated and the user does not equal the account that we are currently looking at, that means that you're not looking at your own profile. But we need to add some more logic here. We want to say if friends.filter primary key equals user.id, then is friend equals true. So the authenticated user is up here, defined up here. Now we're accessing the friends list of the person whose account we're currently viewing, and we're saying search through that friend list and look for me. See if I'm part of that friend list. If I am, that means that I'm friends with the person whose profile I'm currently looking at. Then else, so otherwise, if I can't find myself in that list, of course I want to do is friend equal to false, meaning no, we are not friends. But then we have a number of cases. Remember our logic tree. First is it me that I'm looking at? No. Okay. Are we friends? No. Okay. So now there's these three different cases. So that's what's happening here. Is it me that I'm looking at? No. Okay. Are we friends? If we're not friends, which is false right here, now we have the three kind of states, those three different states that I was talking about. So I'll write some comments. I'm going to say, case number 1, request has been sent from them to you. So that's the case them to you. So this is friend request status dot them sent. Whoops, I need to wrap this text. I don't know why that setting always comes off. I always have this, seems like I have to do it every video. Them to you. So that's the first one, basically request status, them to you. Now the way that we're going to handle this logic might seem a little strange, but it's because of the way the view has to be rendered. So like if they sent you a friend request, let's take a look at the demo picture. If they sent you a friend request, that means you have the option to either accept or decline. And what that means, which might not be clear right now, is that we need access to that ID, the ID of that specific friend request, so that inside of the template we can execute something when we click either decline or accept. So we need kind of the most information with this case. The other case is relatively simple. Like if you sent them a friend request, it's pretty simple because all we need to do is display this cancel button. That's, there's nothing really needed there. We already have all the information we need because we're authenticated as the user. So if we had to look up our own account, that's fine. As opposed to the other situation when we can accept one, we need that specific ID unique to this user that we're looking at. So there's it's a little bit more difficult, I guess you would say, to get that information. And then the last case is if there was no request sent. Well, in that case, it's simple too. We don't need any extra information. That's just, we need to display, like, we want to display the send friend request button. We don't need any specific IDs. We already have everything we need because we know the user that we're looking at. Now that might have sounded a little confusing, so let me just write this all out and then I'll kind of come back and I'll talk about it after that. So case number one is if, now we want to use that function that we built, the get friend request or false function. So going into utils and copy the name of this, go up to the very top of the file and do from friend.utils import that function that we built. Now go back down to where we were at. So now we want to call that function get friend request or false. We want to pass sender equals the account. So that's the account that we're currently looking at. And then receiver equals the authenticated user. So that is the check, and we want to check to make sure if that does not equal false. If that does not equal false, that means that's our first scenario. That's this scenario down here. That means that they sent you a friend request and we need that specific friend request ID passed into the template. So this is the kind of most difficult scenario that we need the most information for. So let's go into here and create a variable called request sent and do friend request status dot them sent to you and do dot value. That's how you get the value of an enum, just in case you were curious. Now we want to add that to the context. So context, I'll do pending friend request ID and set that equal to, we're going to call that function again. So get friend request or false. We're calling that function and then calling .id because that's going to get the specific friend request object, and I want to get the specific ID of that friend request. So if we go into like the friend app here and we go down to the friend request object, it's going to get that specific friend request object and get the ID, or in other words, get the primary key. So you could write PK here, you could write PK or ID, it doesn't matter. It's going to get the same field. Now case two is going to be a little easier. So I'll say case number two, a request has been sent from you to them. So friend request status dot you sent to them. So this is, of course, like I said, easier. Let me pull up the diagram. So you sent to them. We don't need any specific ID. Since you sent them a friend request, we know how to get that information. We just have to look up your own friend request that you've sent, and we can cancel it. So this is an easier one. We don't have to send like an ID or anything like that. So let's do the same thing as we did up here. Let's say if the get friend request or false, or get friend request or false, if that does not equal false, then I'm going to get the friend request value again. So copying that, request sent, get that, and this constant will be you sent to them, dot value. This should be dot value, not dot values, by the way. And then the last case, which will just be an else case. Oh, this should be else if, by the way, not an if. So the last case here will be no request sent. So I'll write a comment above that and just do, case number 3, no request has been sent. So just to be more specific, friend request status dot no request sent. So in that case, copying that request sent value again and just say, no request sent dot value. So that is the logic. That's these values now we can use inside of our template to define what it's going to look like. So coming down, we need to add these to the template. This is still good. Else if user is not authenticated, is self is false. We still need that, but we want to add an else case here. So otherwise, I'm going to do a try except, and inside here, I want to do friend requests. So if a user, we want to get all the friend requests for the user who we're looking at. Friend request dot objects dot filter, and then receiver equals the user, the authenticated user, and is active, and we want to set that equal to true. So we only want to get friend requests that are true. So if we go up to the top here and just quickly look at this logic, if the user is authenticated and the user does not equal the account that we're looking at, so if you're not looking at your own account, then you want to run through all of this logic. Otherwise, so else if the user is not authenticated, you're not logged in at all, and so it doesn't matter. It's just you're not logged in, so none of that stuff matters. Otherwise, it means that you are looking at your own profile. So this case is if you're looking at your own profile, and in that case, we want to get the friend requests. Because if you look at our production website, if I had any friend requests, which I actually don't, they would appear right here. They would appear in this section, and I could click on them and then go to a list of all my friend requests. So for the exception, I'm not going to catch any particular exception. I'm just going to say pass Basically what it means is like if it's none, if there's nothing to be found, I just want to pass it. I want to make sure that the website doesn't crash. It's allowed to be none. That's fine. Now we want to add everything to the template. So is self, is friend, base URL, that stuff's all good. The next ones that we want to add is request sent. So that's going to be that request sent variable that we created, request sent, and that can be none too. So there is a possibility that that is none. Friend requests, this could also be none because that's going to be the friend requests for if you're looking at your own profile, friend requests. And that should be good. Then we render the template and everything should be good. Pressing Control S on that, and now we can make use of all these new variables in account.html. So earlier in the course, when I copy pasted this in, I left kind of a lot of placeholders in here. So now all we got to do is kind of like update this a little bit. We're not going to be doing much. So scroll down to where this to do is, and you have this friend list link. So this is, if you look at the production website, that's this link right here, this section over here. So how we want to change this is, well, later we want to add a friend list link to take us to the friends list, but we haven't built that yet, so we're going to leave that. But here we do know how many friends they have, so we can actually put a number inside of here. So I'll do those Django template squiggly braces, and I'm going to access friends.length. So if you look at the view and you look at, let's go up to the top here, friends. So no matter whose profile you're looking at, this is going to be the list of all of their friends. So in a Django template, if you want to get the length of any query set, you just do, I don't know what this character is called, but you do that and then length, and that's going to print out the number. Now I want to go down to if friend requests. So this is that variable down here that we added. So that's like if basically you're looking at somebody else's profile, those are those three different statuses that it could have: them sent to you, you sent to them, or no request sent. So that's going to be this little if statement right here. So commenting out these number signs, because that's what comments out logic in Django template language. And I can delete this to do. And again, we can use that Django logic for the length of the number of friend requests. So friend requests length. Whoops, did not need to go to the next line there. But that should be pretty much it. That is all the changes we need, because earlier when I first copy pasted this in, I left a whole bunch of like placeholders in here. So all of the new kind of logic should be in place, like up here. So if is friend equals false, remember our hierarchy tree, if they're not friends and we're not looking at our own profile, then we have our three statuses. So we have you sent them a request. Remember that was number 1 from our enum right over here. Number 1, you sent them a request. And then we have if it's -1, that means no request has been sent. And the last case is up at the top here. So if request sent equals 0, that is the case for them sent to you. So those are all of the cases. I already had them in the template. So now kind of things are just magically going to work. Now the questions you might have are, what are these JavaScript functions that you have kind of in all of these? These are still placeholders. So if you go down to the bottom, these functions have event listeners and stuff, or these buttons and templates have, or divs have event listeners, but none of these functions do anything. So you can see these are commented out. None of this stuff is working. Also, all of these are commented out. They're just placeholders so that when I go to add all of these things one by one, you can really clearly see like which thing does which, and also so that I don't forget anything. So everything is kind of in here already. All I have to do is build the functionality out and then come in here and uncomment it. So let's press Control S on this, and we're going to go to our development environment and see if we did everything correctly. All right, so first I'm going to go to my own profile. So go to account and go to my profile. Looks like name friend list is not defined. So this is an object import error. So let's go to the views.py and go up to the top. I didn't import any of the stuff from the friend kind of models. So we have to do from friend.models, import friend list, and also friend request. I can't remember if we use friend request, but let's just import it anyway. So pressing Control S to save that, go back to our development environment, refresh it. All right, looks like we got a new error, local variable request sent referenced before assignment. So that means down in our view that we just built, we have a request sent object or request sent variable, which is this one right here. It means it's being assigned and it hasn't been set. So we have to set that to something basically. So up at the top, we're going to set like a default value. So we have is self is true, is friend is false. We're going to set request sent equal to friend request status dot no request sent dot value. So kind of like the default value, we're going to assume that no request has been sent by default. And since we're here, and since I just remembered, or since we just got an error for no, forgot to assign an object variable, or forgot to assign a variable kind of error, I'm going to set friend request because I'm pretty sure I did not assign that a default value either. So let's set that equal to none. Press Control S on that, go back to our development environment, refresh it, and looks like, okay, last one is friend request status is not imported. So again, coming up to the top, we want to import this enum that we created, friend request status. So let's go up to views and do from friend dot friend request status, friend request status, import that enum, friend request status. Now Control S again. I always forget the imports. They always get me. So there we go. We have our account. So this looks correct. I'm looking at my own account. Everything looks correct here. Now let's go to another profile. So I'm going to search J and go to Jess's profile. All right. So it looks like object type friend request has no attribute objects. What I'm guessing here is when we did the query for friend request, I typed object instead of objects. So let's go find the typo. Man, I made a lot of mistakes today. And that's right here. So get friend request or false, friend request dot objects. That's what that should be to make a query, not object. Control S on that. Now back to development, refresh it, and there we go. So the only problem I see here is looks like there's something wrong with the profile image, which I don't think is related to anything that we've done. I'll check on that in a second. But the thing to notice is that yes, we have the send friend request button here. So that's good. As far as anything else that we can test, that's all that we can test as of right now, because we don't have the ability to send a friend request yet. So we don't have the ability to check all of those kind of statuses that we defined earlier. So we can move on to the next part now. We're ready to move on to sending a friend request. By the way, I know you're getting tired of hearing this, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you really need to go to codingwithmitch.com and watch the course there. If you look down in the description of this video, notice that there's no notes, there's no links to source code, there's nothing. You got to go to codingwithmitch.com to get that stuff. And don't worry, everything's completely free. You just got to go and register an account and watch it. It's completely free. There's no strings attached. I just want you to go to codingwithmitch.com because it will track your progress. It's a better way to watch content. Also on YouTube, you kind of get lost in the videos, I think. And if I upload in the wrong order on YouTube, that's going to confuse you. If you just watch on my website, it's guaranteed to be in the right order. All the notes are there. Everything is there. Go to codingwithmitch.com and I'll see you in the next video on codingwithmitch.com, of course.